All right, so let's start, and let's start with a little bit of the airports. What are our challenges? What are our strategies to overcome those challenges? And then we will do the deep diving of how we have overcome those challenges. So, with Dubai Airports, our vision is to be the biggest and the best airport in the world. When we say biggest, we mean to say that we want to be the biggest in number of passengers we manage, number of movements we handle, our capacity in terms of the strength and size, and of course the market share. So that's what we mean when we say we want to be the biggest in the world. What we mean by best in the world? We want to be best in our guest experience because our guest experience is the heart and soul of everything we do at Dubai Airports. So we want to be best in that. Safety and security, of course. Safety is our utmost priority. It is in our genes. Thirdly, we want to make sure that our guests are satisfied and happy. We don't call our passengers anymore. We call them guests because we want to give that hospitality flavor to them when they are dealing with us. Of course, the processing excellence and the network and steadiness. We also give high focus to the real doers piece, which is our employee piece, because we believe that you need to get driven from inside if you want to get the best performance out of your employees. And we put a lot of focus on employee satisfaction, their development. Of course, we are a profit-making company, and we are into business and not charities. We have high focus for the financial performance. Process effectiveness and efficiency is also our focus. Environmental sustainability, of course, it is flavor of these years now. So we are very serious about that. Last but very important is the partnerships. You will hear this in our subsequent discussions that only and only with strong and solid partnerships you can make your stakeholders start sharing with you. Once your stakeholders start sharing with you, you will do wonders and they will get a lot of returns. I'm talking about sharing everything. Minimum is the data. So that's all about us. Of course, a little bit around what we are doing and how we are performing. So we last year have managed 87 million passengers, which is a massive number. We are announced as the biggest, the most busy airport in the world because we have done that. Then 416,000 plus flight movements we have managed. We have managed 77.5 million bags. Our baggage accuracy rate is 99.8%, which is much higher than the IATA classified standards of the average accuracy. We have very effective waiting time stats. As you can see, we have under 7 minutes for the departure passport control and under 4 minutes for the security check, which is extremely good and high when it comes to our baselines. These are just few examples of our achievements of last year. We have been the first international airport to earn the Certified Autism Center Award from the designator by the IBCAC. We are the world's leading airport as per World Travel Awards. We are most connected airport in Asia Pacific and Middle East as per again the ACI. We got 2 awards from the Middle East, the Business Travel from Middle East, which is the best airport worldwide and best airport in Middle East. Last but not the least, we have the accessibility enhancement accreditation from ACI. So these are just few examples of our affiliations, awards and certifications. So let's start with little complex topics. What are our challenges? As I said, we are the most busy airport in the world from the international passengers perspective. We have 2 airports, 4 terminals and 5 concourses. Our capacity is massive. Our capacity is extremely high. We have, when we say 2 airports combined together, I think we are the biggest capacity airport in the world. Having said that, our focus is not just to turn around the passengers, or just to turn around the machines and equipments and bags. We want to ensure that we do our work most efficiently and without compromising with the satisfaction level of passengers. For example, we don't want to just park 4 A380s in a parking stand next to each other because that serves the purpose, but at the same time, it makes a chaos when you come in with massive passenger numbers around. So we want to ensure our passengers are satisfied and happy and they go home happy, saying the airports has been excellent experience for them. So all the four key areas of operation we are focusing on with equal priority and equal focus. Number one, of course, your passenger journey. Second is your baggage journey. Third is your air freight journey, and fourth is your cargo journey. There is no Superman show. One person or one organization cannot manage the show when it comes to the airports. We have to make it work in collaboration and participation with your stakeholders. We are putting high level of focus and attention on this space. We run multiples of steering groups and working groups on weekly and monthly basis to make sure that we are connected with our stakeholders on very regular basis rather than need basis. Because when you deal with your stakeholders on basis of need, then you don't really get things out of them because it may not work. So we make sure that we are connected with hundred of stakeholders which you see on the screen, on continuous basis. Now, with the challenge of such massive airport with so much of high demand around our operation, how do we manage our show without compromising on the passenger experience? Managing our operation without compromising on the service is a big task. And one very vital aspect of that is how you make sure that you are not performing in bits and pieces, but you are performing with the holistic mindset. Across each key touch points of your operation, your performance is extraordinary. Then only you will be able to win the hearts of your passengers. Then only your passengers will be able to go home with utmost satisfaction that I had end-to-end great experience at the airport. So for that, we have adopted the Total Airport Management operating model. This operating model looks at the holistic improvement across all the key airport touch points. It looks at each and every area of operation with high focus and high priority to make sure that when you combine together your overall operation, it is efficient and accurate. You make sure that you interlink all these dependencies. For example, simple example, if I have excellent experience on the immigration counter, but it took me 5 minutes more at the baggage carousel, the experience of passenger is shattered. If I had everything done perfectly, but at the end, at the taxi area, I just had to wait 15 minutes extra for the taxi, experience is shattered. So Total Airport Management is a philosophy which makes sure that you don't excel in specific areas, but each and every area of operation. At the end, what you want is, you want to receive positive vibes from each and every touch point of your operation. For example, at the check-in, you want your check-in teams and your passengers to say that I had best-in-class experience while I was doing the check-in. Whether it is the service I received or the self-service experience I had whatsoever. Similarly, you want the immigration to go well with your passengers, you want your security checks to go well with your passengers, you want your handling agents and operations to say that we have been able to manage all our flights arriving and departing on time. And finally, when passengers are at the taxi queue area, your passengers and your taxi authorities can say that we have sufficient taxis at the right time for all our passengers. So that's what you're looking for when you say Total Airport Management vibes. You want all these vibes to come out of this equation to be successful in that. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to focus on two very important topics for the aviation industry. First one is data acquisition. Data acquisition doesn't happen overnight. I think we all are from the aviation industry and we know how difficult it is to get the data out of the stakeholders' pocket. Because naturally, every stakeholder has its own vision, its own direction, its own strategy. And everyone is trying to strive and be successful in their own respective areas. They need to know what is in it for them. Unless they are convinced that this data is safe, this data will give me much more than what I am giving to the stakeholder to the airport, they will not be able to give you the information. We put a lot of efforts in our stakeholder collaboration. We conduct weekly, monthly, and quarterly meetings at the working group level, steering group levels to make sure that our strategies are aligned, to make sure that our stakeholders are aligned with our roadmaps, we are aligned with their roadmaps, and there is an equal willingness to share and manage the data. When you have that going, you slowly start getting stakeholders buy-in for sharing the data. One very important thing we did in parallel to that was, instead of asking, we started giving. We started developing and delivering platforms for our stakeholders without charging them anything. We started sharing a massive volume of data which we used to have already in our ecosystem, so that they can start using that data for the greater good of the overall ecosystem. And that has really worked for us. Now Abdurazak will take us through some of the details of how we have managed to achieve that.
Thank you, Yusuf. So this was a good introduction about the challenges that Dubai Airport is having in terms of resource planning. We are a proud partner with Dubai Airport for the last 20 years, helping them in the domain of planning and operations. When we were given the task to deploy this project, upgrading the airport systems, the RMS was a unique planning puzzle that we needed to solve. So in agreement with Dubai Airport, this project was divided into phases to ensure the success at the end, meeting the objectives of the project. The first part was, the manual part, which we called for the fixed. When we say fixed resources, we mean stands, gates, baggage belts, and check-in counters. What we did in the first phase of this project was to make sure that we manage with the business user to capture all the business rules. What do they care about? What is the restrictions? What is the KPIs? What is the airline preferences? All the stakeholders, and make sure that it is inputted properly. In order for us to do that, we needed to choose a platform. It's one of the first times where we deploy a solution not as an integrated AODB RMS fit, but as a standalone systems. And this is the first time we were deploying RMS as a standalone system. For us to do that, we had to make sure that this is not an out-of-the-box solution, but it's a tailored solution toward what the business user really would like to have. And there were very few solutions in the market which can ensure such tailor-made delivery. And this is where we partnered with Delmia Quintic to deliver such a tailored solution, because they're one of the world leader in optimization, and we took this challenge together with them in delivering this project. So the first part was really capturing these business rules, putting them in the system, and running the system in a manual way. So it would take 5 to 6 hours to create the plan, to issue the plan, but this allowed the business users to check it thoroughly and make sure that it is in agreement with the expected output that they were looking for. Once this was established, we moved to phase 2, and phase 2 was going to auto allocation. With a simple click of a button, you would automatically issue the plan based on these rules that you have already configured in phase 1. But this plan was only good at the time it was issued. As we all know, an airport is a dynamic place. There are always delays, there are always early arrivals, non-scheduled flights, and so forth. So this means that this plan for a dynamic airport like Dubai Airport was only good for the time it was issued. And therefore, the third phase was a critical phase, which means Dubai Airport wanted to understand how can we create a plan where taking into consideration all the variables that are happening to their environment. And this is where the optimization part played a big role. This optimizer will look every 5 minutes at all the variables that are happening in the airport, and will issue a plan to the planner to improve the plan that is going to be executed based on these business rules. To explain this further, the power of the optimizer, as we said, it runs continuously. So this is continuously running in the background with a cycle of 5 minutes. And each cycle takes on average 15 to 25 snapshots plan, which eventually is taking the updates from the integration platform. And this integration platform has more than 50 interfaces linked to it, providing this data. So this is a very complex ecosystem that is operating in the background. And these are, as you see on the screen, the KPIs, some of the KPIs that are configured in the platform. Now, these KPIs are dynamic KPIs. For example, you have the A380, you have the connecting passengers, you have the level of service for transfer or baggage or check-in, you have the remote stands, you have the utilization. How can I use to the maximum my stands and my assets without impacting the passenger or the guest experience, as Dubai Airport likes to call it. All this was very important in considering the whole plan. So these KPIs are KPIs that are not static, but depending on, for example, airline preferences, Emirates being one of the major stakeholders, these airline preferences are in, and this plan would kick in based on certain instances taking the hub airline interest into consideration. Furthermore, if we get a message that there is a passenger with a wheelchair, automatically the system would detect that this needs to be on a stand and not on a remote stand, in order also to facilitate this guest experience. One of the major functionality of the optimizer was also to identify groups who are at risk. So if you have a group of passengers who are flying and transferring to another flight, the RMS would put these two flights as close as possible to each other in order to make sure the minimum connection time is met and we are not losing, the possibility of having people miss their or passengers miss their flights. You can talk about different scenarios. You can talk. Yusuf will explain that this optimizer is running in the background, but Dubai Airport have defined windows of operation where they call it pre-tactical window, tactical window, and freeze window. And within these windows, the planner chooses what to do for each of these phases. Yusuf?
Yeah. I must say that the optimizer which we are running at the airport is a masterpiece. Considering the complexities of the operation and our high expectations from the service management perspective. What it does is, it continuously runs the optimizer to be able to allocate and reallocate the plan. But we want to be, practically mindful of the fact that we are running the show along with the human beings. Just take the simple example, if I change the stand plan just 15 minutes before the flight to be arriving, it becomes a messy situation, right? So we have to be mindful that we will use the optimizer to the extent when change management is humanly acceptable and manageable. So we have a freeze window which says that even though I need to change the plan, I can't change it within this window because it is operationally and practically not possible to manage that change. Then you have a pre-tactical and tactical window. These two windows are actually doing the wonders for us. For each and every change which is taking place ahead of that time is managed during tactical and pre-tactical window to make sure that our planners are not doing the dirty job, but they are doing all thinking job. Each and every change is automatically managed through the hard and soft rules which are configured in the system, and it keeps giving the best plan to the planner. So planner doesn't have to worry about all those things. What he worry about is how I can think intelligent to manage the stakeholders, to communicate the information at the right time to the right parties, and to manage any side effects of these changes which are taking place either at the terminals or in the baggage area. So that's what it does for us. It takes us away from the repetitive dirty job and makes our planners more effective and more robust to manage the situation, to handle the stakeholders, and to handle the operation. So that was the glory of that.
So in a nutshell, the power of the RMS with the optimization reduces the dependency on the human brain. It automates and creates the best usage of the resources that you have within the airport, whether the contact stands or the baggage belts or the check-in counters. It enables optimum levels of service for the guests, and it has improved eventually the operation and the productivity of the team. Having this results in the RMS cannot happen without having the proper feed of data that is coming into the RMS. And this is where, the challenge with the previous system that Dubai Airport had, any typical AODB today in the market parses usually between 6 to 7 IATA type B messages. So this was, airport is hungry for more data. There are around 40 IATA type B messages in the manual, not mostly are used, but now with the data that airports are looking for, they are starting to ask airlines to use some of these. And once you do this, airlines will have to, AODD provider have to go through change requests and time and money, which is very costly and not efficient. Also, some of the DCS of the airlines are usually sending the IATA type B messages with problems, sometimes with a dot or with a slash, and any parser with any deviation from the standard would drop the message and would not parse it. And this is a challenge that the airport was also having. missing data, so you would have to go manually and feed the AODB with the correct number of passengers or bags or weight and stuff like this. Manual updates as well as the cost, as we said earlier. What we were looking for to achieve with what Dubai Airport was looking for is to create a parser, which we are now calling the aviation message parser in Dubai Airport, which is out of the box would parse more than 30 IATA standards. So today, if the airline and the airport decide together they want to use a new standard, out of the box you can implement this because it's already available in the system. Furthermore, the system allowed you to go and look back at the message that have been parsed and dropped because of the dot or the slash, and would allow you to correct it and reparse it again. So therefore, not really wasting it. And if we notice the system, it notices that if this DCS continuously sending this problem, then using machine learning, we can now just say eliminate the dot or eliminate the slash and reparse the message again, which was really a game changer in terms of message parsing. On-time acquisition of accurate data for the tactical window of planning was crucial. So if you now have the proper data that's coming with the airline, with the proper number of passengers, let me give you an example. If now an A380 is coming and it has 250 passengers only, while another wide-body aircraft has a 400 passenger on it, now with this correct information, the RMS will prioritize the parking the more passengers on the gate, and if there is no space, parking the A380 on the remote stand. This is how the accuracy of the data help in implementing a proper plan for the RMS. If we want to talk further about this aviation message parcel, there is the capability now of using emails. So now you can create a simple email between the airline or between the two stakeholders, and this email can be parsed without any challenge. Avoiding, if you want, costly SITA network cost, where you can avoid it if it is possible now to be avoided. It can, as well, it has the ability to configure the same message type, but coming from different airlines. So you can say, if it is coming from airline X, I want the system to behave in one way. If it is coming from another airline, I want the system to behave in a different way. And this allows the unique way of configuring the system based on what each airline is sending to Dubai Airport. The results were really great. On some of the messages types like LDM, PTM movement, the average success rate was around 65 to 67%. So around 37, 38% was being dropped earlier, which allowed a significant amount of time to fix this, or losing the data and having to go manually to fix it. With the aviation message parser, which we have created now, the accuracy has significantly gone up, 96% and 94%. This allowed further not only benefits for the resource management system, but even it allowed more accurate billing with the airlines and less disputes, and this is something that was extremely important for Dubai Airport in making sure that their aeronautical revenue is maintained properly without any challenges. And one of the effects, I think, which Yusuf can explain further, I think the size of the team that was handling data, shrunk.
Exactly. I mean, we have a lot of post-operation activities for the reconciliation purpose are conducted with multiple number of users. With the help of this particular automation, we didn't have to do all those things in that detail. We have a colleague from AOCC who runs the show there from the reconciliation perspective. They drastically reduced the amount of users who were to do those manual reconciliations, because the accuracy started coming into the ecosystem by itself. We just had to do the governance and management of that. So those are the direct advantages from the resourcing perspective as well.
So all this goes back to the foundation of how can we clean the data, how can we plan using the data. Without a proper integration layer, all this work could not have happened. Over the years, we had the pleasure to work with Dubai Airport to integrate more than 70 systems today in Dubai Airport. All this data is coming into the integration layer using the standards, open architecture, AIDX whenever it's possible, APIs connectivity to share with internal and external stakeholders. Not only that, we're using the tools on the ESB to transform some of the data so you don't have to bombard your network with the same data being sent all over the place. So it is being used in the most efficient way. It has time-based priorities to provide, which Yusuf will explain in a bit what we mean by time-based priorities. But one of the nice examples, which Khalid explained to me from AOCC about the integration layer, it can, in case of disconnectivity for whatever reason, the integration layer takes into consideration the timestamp. So for an interface like coming from the ATC, where the sequence of the messages are really important, the integration layer would queue these messages in a timely manner, and once the reconnection is established, it will go back and send it to the proper system at the right time. So it is really the heart, I would call it, the core of having a proper RMS and a proper aviation message parser is to start with a proper integration layer, doing it as per the book, and this is, I think, the investment that Dubai Airport have done very successful.
Thanks, Abdulrazak. Every time I speak on this topic, I feel a lot of proud and satisfaction that with the help of data acquisition and system integrations, today we have reached to a state where we don't only have the direct integration and real-time integration with the source systems for each and every touch points and key milestones within the ecosystem. We also have the alternate sources. For example, just take the simple example of estimated landing time. Many airports across the globe are struggling to get at least one automated source to get the ELDT into their ecosystem. Today we have 4 integration sources which are automatically capturing estimated landing time. And we have the liberty and privilege to decide which source we use at what time. We have configured the environment to decide based on the time equation that, okay, if it is within 40 minutes, I will use this as a source. If it is beyond that, I will use that as a source. If this guy is delayed, this integration is delayed, I will use that alternate and things like that. That is something which is really, doing wonders for us from the operational efficiency and data accuracy perspective. With the help of this data acquisition, what we have further achieved is we have changed our mindset from reactive to predictive, because we get the data in advance. We are able to pump that data into our predictive platforms and tools. So instead of reactively managing the situation, because of the help of the data and platforms, we are able to proactively manage everything. Just take the simple example, we have the forecast data ahead of the game, a couple of months in advance. Then we get the book load as we come close to the time, and then we get the load message. So all these things are getting automatically accumulated and processed into our ecosystem. That gives us the ability to be predictive. We start using all that data which is accurate at that time, and we start making a lot of use of that. So we have prediction and proactiveness covered in all the 3 key areas of operation. Flow modeling at the passenger level, flow modeling at the baggage level, and flow modeling at the aircraft level. So that's how we are ahead of the game when it comes to managing our operation and managing our stakeholders, and this is what we feel very proud of. Sorry, we are almost running short of time. So the good thing is this is the last slide in our presentation. The slide speaks for itself. I can simply say that we have surpassed all the standards we have set for ourselves. We have gone beyond the expectations when it comes to passenger satisfaction, baggage satisfaction, baggage processing satisfaction, even our other standards from the safety and economy perspective. Every area we have really excelled, and it's a continuous journey. It never ends. We are having overwhelming demand, for the operation. Every time we get new customers and the new airlines who want to operate with us. So we continuously work on these initiatives to make sure that we get more and more data acquired in the ecosystem. We get more and more passengers satisfied. We get more and more stakeholders on board and willing to cooperate and work together. As I said earlier, it's not a Superman show. All the stakeholders have to work together, in line with the strategy and guidelines to make sure that you shine and you have that win-win situation for your airport as a site, not as an organization. Thank you so much, and we are happy to take any questions if we have.
Thank you very, very much.